We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
we the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our Lazy Boy furniture.
Lazy Boy, long live the lazy.
When storms start to blow and danger strikes, we come together to face any challenge as a community. And when trouble hits our county, HCFL Alert is your #1 source for information. HCFL Alert is with you before, during, and after the storm. To sign up, visit hcfl.gov/HCFL Alert so we know how and when to notify you about local emergencies. The safest way through bad weather is together.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips. Heat, still the hot topic of weather conversation, right?
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Dennis Phillips Live, brought to you by Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries. Long live the lazy, and by HCFL Alert.
How you doing, everybody? ABC Action News Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips here. And right off the bat, I'm not in my blue hoodie, not because I wish that I wasn't in my blue hoodie, but I didn't have time to change. So normally when the news ends at 6:30 and I record my cut-ins, I then, get ready for DPL, but we're starting at 7 as opposed to 7:30. And so I'm not trying to be more formal. This is not designed to freak you out. This is merely, I should run back there and just get my hoodie and just put it on top and I would feel more comfortable, but nevertheless. All right, so if you're watching on ABC Action News, normally if you watch DPL, you kind of know what we talk about. A lot of the folks, and we've been doing Dennis Phillips Live for over 10 years, way longer than Facebook's even been doing lives. And a lot of the commenters here, the way that it works, if you're watching on TV, obviously you cannot ask questions. If you're watching on Facebook, amongst the tens of thousands of people out there right now, you can ask questions. However, at this point, what my goal is to give you a really solid overview of what we're expecting is going to happen with this storm, and hopefully that'll answer all your questions. Now, after we go off of broadcast TV at 7:30, then I'll focus more on Facebook, and I can kind of work on what some of your questions are. Most of them usually are, is my flight going to get canceled? Well, the answer to that is yes, because tomorrow both airports have closed. The next question is, what about Disney? Is that going to be open? Don't know about Disney yet. My guess is they could also be closed, but that's just a guess. But what we're looking at right now is flat out the most serious weather situation that we have had here in the Bay Area in the 30 years that I've worked in this market. And even more than that, you can make the argument this is the most serious weather situation we've had here in the Bay Area since October of 1921, because that was the last major hurricane to hit the Bay Area directly. And chances are very high. They're not 100%. There's always some wiggle room. Look, anybody who's lived in this area long enough, all you got to do is say Charlie, Irma, Ian. Those were 3 storms that originally were forecast to be right in the Bay Area. And Charlie, 6 hours before landfall in Punta Gorda, the track was right into Tampa, and it changed that dramatically. Now, I don't say that to minimize the risk, to minimize the threat. I say that as a Floridian who knows Florida weather can do some crazy stuff. But what I saw today is something I have not seen before. Behind me is a hurricane that went from a tropical storm to a Category 5, 180-mile-an-hour wind storm in a matter of less than 24 hours. And by the way, I just checked recon. The pressure has actually dropped below 900 millibars. So it is coming in on one of the, or if not one of the strongest hurricane ever to form in the Northern Hemisphere. All right, so at this point in time, obviously it got everybody's attention. You know, as Floridians, a lot of us are like, it's a Cat 1 or it's a Cat 2, we're going to be okay. And there's kind of a flippancy about it. I mean, a lot of folks are like, I'm not going to worry about it until it's a 3, right? Well, it's a 5. And based on the fact that evacuations are mandatory, and we're going to go over all of that coming up in a minute. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and go over some of these things right now, okay? So here are some of the things that you need to remember. You need to know your evacuation route. You need to know where you are headed. As odd as that might sound, sometimes it's very difficult to get where you're going because the traffic is ridiculous. Having a full tank of gas is a challenge. I was driving to work today and I saw lines of cars, 30 cars deep, to get gas. I also saw a Thornton station in Oldsmar that was shut down and boarded up. That surprised me because I could have sworn I remember there was legislation passed after some of the last hurricanes that places had to stay open with gas for the public safety. That one kind of surprised me. Have an emergency kit, secure your home. Those are all givens, right? Okay, so mandatory evacuations. All areas west of US 19, zones A, B, and C, with low-lying areas. All right? That is with Hernando County. With Hillsborough County, zones A and B, manufactured and mobile homes. All right? Manatee County, zones A, B, and C, mobile homes and RVs. These are all mandatory evacuations. Pasco County, zones A and B, manufactured mobile homes, RVs, low-lying and flood-prone areas. Those are mandatory evacuations. Pinellas County, healthcare facilities in zones A, B, and C, and issued this afternoon, zone A, B, and C, mandatory evacuations for Pinellas County. That is a lot of people, folks. Sarasota County, zones A and B, manufactured, mobile, and boat homes. Storm shelters for Hurricane Milton. Hillsborough County and general population, there are 6 shelters open, 3 special needs shelters. Pinellas County, there are 3 general population shelters and 3 special needs shelters. Sarasota County, there are 8 shelters opening 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And continuing in Manatee County, shelters, 3 of them opened this afternoon. Pasco County, 4 shelters opened at noon. Special needs shelters open at noon. Polk County, public shelters opening at noon. Special needs shelters open at 7 a.m. And Hernando County Public Shelter opening tomorrow at 8 a.m. So, what is the latest? All right? We are under a hurricane warning for the entire area. What's going to happen here is the storm Milton will cut across the state and spread hurricane conditions across the area. Now, I want to talk about something, and I'll talk about it more in a minute, but you see winds of 180 miles an hour. That is in an incredibly small part of that storm. Let me be very clear about it. I am not minimizing anything at all. This is the largest threat from a weather event that we have seen in a century. Doesn't mean it can't change direction or have some changes, and I believe there will be significant changes to the strength. But when you see that 180 mile an hour winds, and by the way, this map shows you that there's a storm surge warning as well for along the coast, and there are those hurricane warnings for the entire area because the storm, instead of paralleling the coast like Helene did, this is going to cut across and it is going to bring conditions, hurricane conditions inland. But those conditions are not going to be anywhere close to that 180 mile an hour wind that you see. There are the storm surge predictions, all right? The storm surge predictions, these are the worst case reasonable storm surge prediction. So from the Hurricane Center, these are as bad as it could get. And it's very obvious why they're going to do that. They're going to tell you what that worst case is So you are prepared for the worst. And that's by definition, you prepare for the worst, you hope for the best, right? So that is why these numbers are what they are. The surge is a larger threat in terms of devastation than the winds are. And even with 180 mile an hour winds, you're like, how the heck is that possible? If you have 180 mile an hour winds across everybody, we're all going to get blown off the map. That would be the case, but that's not what's happening. Those 180 mile an hour winds are in an extraordinarily small part. We're talking a mile wide, tops. Hurricane force winds only extend out 25 miles. That's it. And of those 25 miles, I guarantee you 20 of them are about 75 or 80. Okay? So the overall wind field is small, but extremely intense. All right? So as the storm gets closer to us, the wind field will probably increase a bit. But overall, the max wind field in our area will be relatively small with winds of 100 plus miles an hour. There will be some, but most of them will be rather small. So I want you to remember that, where we always say hide from the wind, run from the water. So if you live inland and you're concerned about 130 or 140 mile an hour winds sustained, it is very, very unlikely for you to see that. A 5-mile area near the coast is the biggest threat. Now, coming up after this break, we're going to talk more about that threat for individual counties as we continue with Dennis Phillips Live. Okay, so guys on Facebook, you are still here and can still hear me. Broadcast cannot. So we're going to talk about the broadcast folks right now while they're not here. No, I'm just joking. But obviously, because, the broadcast folks are not DPL fans. Let's be honest. If you like DPL and you like all the comments and you love the folks in the chat, this is kind of a family. I mean, like I was saying, this is what the folks have commented on. They're saying this is like a bunch, like 1,000 or 2,000 people in the backyard, all in their lawn chairs, talking over each other. And it's a bunch of mayhem. That's kind of what this chat group is like. But obviously, because this is such a significant and a serious situation, we figured we'd cover the first half hour on broadcast to kind of give everybody what they need to know. I have no idea how my voice is going to last through Thursday. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But when 7:30 is up, then we're only on streaming and Facebook, so we'll be able to kind of do our thing and answer more about questions, okay? So, and I can take my Diet Dr. Pepper sip, the nectar of the gods. So honestly, you look at this picture and you're like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, from a meteorological standpoint, it's unreal. You'll never see, or rarely if ever see, a more perfect hurricane in terms of organization. And it's also a beast. I mean, this developed so quickly and so powerfully that I really think it got people's attentions. And I don't believe, how long until the break's over, guys? Less than 2, okay. So when is the end time back in? I'm waiting for Ileana to answer, guys. 13:43, okay, all right, thank you, I got it. So the thing about this storm is it got everybody's attention, right? I mean, I think typical Florida fashion pre-Helene, it's gonna miss us, or and I'm not gonna worry about it until it's a 3 or a 4. But this thing got to be so strong, I really think people looked at this, and there's a few, I saw it on social media, there's a few, it's gonna curve, they all curve. A lot of them do, but do you wanna be the guy looking at that thing right there saying, I screwed up, it's not gonna curve. And then you got nothing that you can do because you hide from the wind and you run from the water. Again, so folks, our broadcast TV people will be back in 45 seconds, and then we'll continue our forecasting in terms of why we think it's going to weaken. It will. And why the wind field will actually expand a little bit. And the surge is still the largest threat. And the specificities of that surge, I will not be able to say specificities in about 2 days. I don't even know what I'm going to be talking about in 2 days. But At the end of the day, the overall wind threat will be much lower than the surge threat in terms of damage. The damage is going to be along the coast, at and just south of where that eye crosses is going to be unbelievable. So we're going to be back in 5 seconds for broadcast. And let's get going in 3, 2, 1. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Dennis Phillips Live on broadcast, ABC Action News. So let's go ahead and continue, all right? So obviously this satellite is unlike anything you've ever seen. There's only been 2 storms in history that were faster in developing, and that was Felix and Wilma. And a lot of people remember Wilma because it made landfall in 2005 in South Florida. And the one thing I remember about Wilma, the craziest thing, it was a massive storm in terms of size. This is a little bitty storm in terms of size. Hurricane winds, again, extend only 25 miles out. That's it. So you look at that little donut in the middle. Here, I'll take it full so you can kind of see it. You look at the donut in the middle, you've got your eye, and then the little red color around it. That's it. And maybe some of that purple. You get away from that, there's no longer even hurricane force winds. So extremely small. But with Wilma, I'll never forget, when it made landfall in Naples, the first storm report I got was out of Miami. They had 130 mile an hour winds in Miami on the East Coast when it made landfall on the West Coast. So it was a huge storm in terms of size. Milton is not that storm. It is much, much smaller. And that is significant because the smaller the storm, the faster it can intensify, but the faster it can weaken as well. And that is something to remember. We've been talking about this for a while. There's the updated track as of 5 o'clock, all right? You see in our area, let's take a closer look. It's going to go across the state based on the current track. Look at the margin of error. Look at the cone of uncertainty. As far north as Levy County, as far south as Fort Myers. So it absolutely could still make a change. In fact, I will show you something, and I find this rather fascinating because if you look at some of the spaghetti models, the most recent spaghetti models, there's quite a few south of the Bay Area. Now, the Hurricane Center is saying that's the case because these models did not initiate where the center was correctly. The model started farther south than the center really was. We will see. But I can tell you many times we have seen storms that were expected to be one place that as it gets close to the Florida coast, it can do some crazy things. So the reason I say this is regardless of where you live, if you are in this cone of uncertainty, do not take this storm lightly. People died with Hurricane Ian because they expected this storm was going to hit Tampa, and it unexpectedly curved more to the right and went into Fort Myers. People died in Punta Gorda because 6 hours before landfall, that storm was forecast the exact track of what you're looking at right here with Milton, and it curved early and went into Punta Gorda. I'm not saying that that's going to happen here, but I'm certainly saying that anything's possible based on that cone of uncertainty. So if you currently live in this cone of uncertainty, do not let your guard down. That's all I'm saying. Here's a closer view. I mean, this track is pretty much worst case scenario for the Bay Area. The only way it would have been worse if this stays a 5 or a 4. It will not, by the way. There's going to be some significant shear. The reason it's curving is the reason that that shear is pushing it that way. It's also the reason the southern flank is going to be significantly weaker. All right? But at this point in time, when you look at that, that is a scary scene. But I will repeat, as broad as that area of margin of error is, by this point, I'm predicting hurricane force winds will be about 45 miles out from the center. That's a ballpark guess, but that's probably going to be pretty close. Right now, it's 25. Of those 45 mile an hour, or of those 45 miles, only 5 will be winds between 100 and 120 miles an hour. I mean, these are numbers that I'm coming up with, but this is numbers with my almost 40 years of experience doing this. So I'm telling you, when we're talking about these hurricane force winds, and we'll talk about surge in a little bit, but when we're talking about these hurricane force winds, if they extend 45 miles out, as just an arbitrary number, 5 of those are the ones where you're seeing the extreme winds of 100 to 120. The other 40, 70 to 90, 80 to 95. All right? That is the way I think this plays out. I want to show you one other thing, okay? I'm going to show you some of the models that I was talking about. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look quickly before our next break, and we'll be back. But we're going to look quickly at some of the models. This is the GFS, and you see tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, right there. There's the storm. 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, still offshore. You have all, today's Monday. My bad. I've been working 12 straight days. I forget what day it is. Tomorrow, we have a totally clear day. Not clear, but you have nothing to worry about tomorrow. You absolutely can get anything done you need to get done tomorrow. Wednesday morning, 2 a.m. Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, 2 p.m. Wednesday morning, 8 p.m. This storm has slowed down a little bit. And when a storm slows down, look at the southeastern part of that storm. It's gone because the shear is going to be sucked into that thing. All right? So because of that, I think we're going to see significant weakening by Wednesday night. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. Okay. All right. So there you go. Can't cut me to black. All right. So here we go. So let's continue on Facebook since the other broadcast folks will be here. So that is a look right there at the GFS, the latest GFS. Let's go ahead and take this full. Look, I'm going to draw it for you. Look at this part of the storm. It's gone. There's still wind there, but the drier air and the shear is literally ripping this thing apart. The northern flank is still going to have some significant wind, probably 90 to 100. And that's over Pinellas and Pasco County, folks. So there's going to be wind there. I mean, we are not minimizing the wind, but what we are showing you is that weakening is imminent on Wednesday as this storm continues to move through. Okay? And then as it cuts across the state, which it will, it's going to continue to bring winds. I mean, that's Orlando and Polk County, and you still have a hurricane, 975 millibars. That's still a Category 1 or 2 hurricane moving through Orlando. So if you have evacuated to Orlando or you're moving to Orlando, not moving. If you're evacuated to Orlando or you're relocating to Orlando, you are going to still get hurricane force winds. If you want to get out of the way on this thing, you got to go to South Beach or the Panhandle. Even Jacksonville is going to get some wind, but not nearly as much. Remember, hurricane force winds only extend at this point 25 miles, and by then maybe 45, 50 miles out, tops. So you can see how it starts to get ripped up. Well, let's look at the Euro. Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock. Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Overnight, 2 a.m. It shows the exact same thing. They are identical, all right? When you look at that, you literally are seeing the southern flank of this without any weather per se. All of it is on the northern and the northwestern side because of that dry air and that shear coming in. Got it? So that means that you will be seeing a weakening storm. Usually when a storm stays out over water longer, we're like, oh man, that's a bad thing. It's going to tap all that Gulf water. It's going to get more energized. The longer this stays over water, the better for us because there will be longer times for shear to eat away at this system. And that is significant, right? The longer it stays away, it's going to be still a small storm. It will be bigger by then than it is now. But at the end of the day, the longer it stays out over that water, the weaker this will get at landfall. All right, so we're going back to TV in 3, 2. How you doing, everybody? Back with the last segment of Dennis Phillips Live. Again, when this is off on broadcast, you can flip over to streaming or on Facebook to watch us here. We've been talking with our Facebook folks, and we've been giving them an idea of why we are showing weakening, and I'm going to catch you guys up real quick. So if you look right here, this is the euro, okay? And this is Wednesday morning, 8 a.m., Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m., Wednesday evening, 8 p.m., landfall between around 11 p.m. and midnight on Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Exact same thing with this than the GFS. Look at the southern flank. It's gone. That shearing wind is literally trying to rip this storm apart. Smaller storms, if you remember me saying earlier, smaller storms intensify quicker. They also weaken quicker. So what we are hoping is this stays out over the water a little bit longer. Usually we think the opposite. We're usually like, no, we don't want this over the water. It'll get stronger because of all that warm water. First of all, the water is not as warm in the Eastern Gulf post-Helene. And we continue to see what will be significant weakening. Here is the Euro AI model. It's a new model. I won't get into how it's been developed, but this is a model that's done very well. This is 2 p.m. on Wednesday. This is 8 p.m. on Wednesday. This is overnight. The Euro AI is a little more south. The Euro AI is more Sarasota, but it still cuts across the state and brings hurricane conditions to the rest of the state, Orlando, Polk County, etc. All right? Quickly, I want to go back over and look at additional issues, which are rainfall. How much time do we got, Ileana? Okay. There's the rainfall totals. Is that the end of the show, by the way? Okay, gotcha. All right, again, if you're watching on TV, you can flip over to Facebook or streaming. There's the rainfall totals. We've had a ton of rain. We all know we've had a ton of rain. There will be some flooding. So there's your wind gusts. I want you to look at this. This is Wednesday evening. You got 80-mile-an-hour gusts on the southwest side. Okay, look at the winds in the late night, overnight hours. These are low, but I'm telling you, we are going to be nowhere near overall those 120 numbers. There will be a few spots that are going to get it, absolutely. And if you live in this spot, you're going to be dealing with it. That's why you have to prepare for it. But overall, the complete coverage as a whole will not be nearly as big as what you're seeing with that 120-mile-an-hour wind. Tropical storm force winds will cover everywhere. This is Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, and into the overnight. And obviously, with all these winds, you're going to have a ton of power outages. Most of the power outages will be at their peak in the overnight hours on Wednesday night and into Thursday. So again, watching on streaming, thanks for joining us. You can tune over on Facebook or streaming to see the rest of the show. Booth today, so you got somebody trying. There you go. You got an amateur in the booth. No, not the producer Ileana. You got an amateur Jay in the booth is trying to figure out. Jay, you guys know Jay, the DPL folks. He used to come in here and answer questions and talk about lobster rolls and all that kind of stuff. But he's been working mornings lately, so he's forgotten how to do this whole night stuff. So anyway, we've got our streaming and our TV people are gone. So now we got our core group back. Okay, we got our core group. Okay. So let's get back to what we were talking about. So, in fact, let's go back, because I kind of blew through that other stuff because I knew the TV people, I wanted them to at least see everything. All right, so let's jump back to, I should go put my hoodie on now. Man, hold on, stand by. Be back in just a second. I gotta have my hoodie on. I mean, I'm sorry, but it isn't DPL if I'm not wearing my hoodie. Okay, wait a minute. Even if I have to put it over my tie and my suspenders. I mean, let's be honest. Let me take my mic off because I have to have it on there. All right. Pardon for this quick announcement, and then we'll get back into the details. Stand by. All right. So, all right. Okay. There we go. Okay, apparently streamers aren't even here. Apparently it's just Facebook. That's even better. Because Ileana just told me the streamers will rejoin in a minute, but let's be honest. We like our Facebook people more. Let's just be honest, okay? Because, you're our core audience. All right. I feel so much better. I just still see the tie, but it's hot, but I still feel better. All right, okay. Let's get back to it. So looking at the Euro AI, coming in a little bit farther south, the spaghetti models, as I said, certainly there are some that are south, but the Hurricane Center, and it's a mountain that they're going to stand on. In every discussion, they've said, we know that there are models that are taking this south, and they explained why it's not accurate and why they're sticking with their guns. So more power to them. I mean, look, we want and need to know exactly where this storm is going. I mean, the time has passed where these models should be skewing around. We really need for folks to really prepare for what they're going to prepare for. And at this point, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mean, I hate to say this, but, I do. I think this is our storm. I mean, how many years have we said it's not a question of if, it's when? How many years have we said we are so overdue from a major hurricane? I mean, it's been 103 years. So we all knew at some point it was going to come. So now we deal with it the best we can. And that means if you're in a mandatory evacuation zone, you go. Even if it's only 5 miles, you get a friend to pick you up if they live 5 miles inland. We're talking about if you're on the water. Pinellas County, I'm going to show you guys some stuff in a second, and I think it'll convince you to get away from the water. Helene probably did that already. Are the streamers back, Ileana? Oh, the streamers are back. How you doing, streamers? Welcome back. So, all right. I want to show you what the Hurricane Center has on their page. All right. And this is a storm surge inundation map. Okay. Now, this is based on worst case scenarios. Okay. This is worst case scenarios based on the current track. And the site gets really overwhelmed, and it sometimes jumps like this. There you go. So the red coloring is greater than 9 feet above water. I want you to look at where you are along the coast. If you live in Pinellas or Hillsborough County, South Tampa, I'm going to kind of move this around so you can see. Red color is 9 feet, 6 feet, greater than 9 feet. Orange is greater than 6, so it's 6 to 9. So yellow is 3 to 6, orange is 6 to 9, red is greater than 9. Okay, so look at the red. Look where all that red is. All of that with this storm is a worst case greater than 9. That does not mean it is going to be. It means you should prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right? All of the areas that were hit by Helene, you're probably looking at a surge 3 to 4 feet higher than you did with Helene. Now, that's the worst case, again. But this is from the Hurricane Center's page. Now, I will show you, and I show you this one because it kind of really breaks it down to individual neighborhoods as opposed to broad brush. Here's Pasco County. It's up toward Weeki Wachee. So look at these areas that if you live on the water. The red is greater than 9 feet. Again, this is worst case scenario. But we are dangerously close to a worst case scenario coming in if we make landfall in Pasco or Pinellas County. See the areas around the bay? Look at Oldsmar. The top of the bay, Oldsmar over toward West Chase. Look at all that red in Oldsmar on the top of the bay. You got Dunedin, Honeymoon Island. Have my eyes gone buggy, or is that blurry? Yeah, that was blurry. Okay. So just look at your area right here. Look at all that on the bay. It's greater than 9 feet. So this is why there is a mandatory evacuation for A, B, and C. Right there is why. All of that red. And then look along the bay on the Hillsborough County side. Look at all that red. Look how far it goes inland, even through Riverview. See that? Along the river. And then down toward Manatee County. There's Longboat Key, through Sarasota. See all that red right there? Even with a landfalling hurricane near Tampa, you've got all this water all the way down as far south. Look at that. Look at all that water as far south as Venice. So this right here is why the surge is the largest concern in terms of catastrophic damage. So I was talking to a buddy of mine, a guy who is a meteorologist, used to work here, now works within the insurance industry, and he was explaining to me what the most Katrina was the most costliest hurricane in history. I believe he said it was $200 billion. Maybe wrong, but I think he said it was $200 billion. And that this particular storm, worst case, could be 175. So we are looking at one of the largest potential, costliest disasters, natural disasters that we have ever seen. And it's because landfall is potentially coming into a massively populated area. Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, Sarasota, Manatee. I mean, there's a lot of people. And unfortunately, they're all on the roads right now. A lot of them are trying to get out, and the traffic is just an absolute nightmare. I will tell you, when we evacuated with Irma last time, my family left at about 2 a.m., and the traffic was not bad at all overnight. It was horrible the next day. But if you are going to evacuate, and hopefully looking at those colors maybe might convince you that whether it is or isn't a good idea for you. But if you are going to evacuate, there's often times that if you go in the nighttime hours, you're going to hit a lot less traffic. So that is, I'm not suggesting it, I'm just saying that is an option, because during the day tomorrow, the traffic will be even worse than it was today. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people, they're like, well, all right, we'll see how it is tomorrow. Maybe it's changed, because tomorrow the weather will be fine. You have no problems at all tomorrow. And I'm sure there's a lot of people saying, well, maybe we'll wait and see if it gets weaker or whatever the case, or, and kind of go from there. So anyway, let's go back to where the winds were. My point with this is, yes, there is going to be an area of extremely heavy wind, 100 to 120 mile an hour winds. There will be a lot of damage, a lot of trees down. There will be house issues. Trees on houses, inevitably, that's going to happen. But that zone will be rather small, 5 to 7 miles. And I'll say it again. It's kind of like a 5-mile tornado. Not like an EF5 or an EF4, but an EF1 tornado. Because outside of that 5-mile stretch, the winds are not going to be nearly as strong, 70 to 90. Now, again, I'll go on camera on this because I always like to make a point when I'm on camera. I am not minimizing this threat. I'll say it again, mark it at 737. This is the largest weather threat the Bay Area has had in 100 years. The threat is larger than Charlie. The threat is larger than Irma. Well, probably similar to what Irma was, because Irma was also a 4 and a 5. But certainly every bit as big of a threat. Now, you can argue, because the storm is smaller in size than Irma was, a lot smaller, then maybe the threat's a little lower. I would entertain that argument, but whatever. It's a big old storm, and it's powerful, and it's going to cause major issues, ones that are going to last for weeks, if not months. We are going to have a ton of blue tarps out there like we had after Charlie and Jean and Francis. We are going to have a lot of trees down. We're going to have power outages. That's even if this storm decides to turn away from us. And the track now from the Hurricane Center has pretty much stayed locked into our area for the last 24 hours. So the chances of it moving are probably lower than the chances of it staying where the current track is. So I can't sit here and say this is our storm a day and a half, 2 days out, actually. 2 days out. Landfall not till really 54 hours from now. A lot can change in 5.4 hours. But as of right now, the odds are highest that it makes landfall in the Bay Area. And even with that said, the area of extreme winds is going to be a rather small spot compared to everybody overall. Okay? And I'm going to start answering questions county by county in a minute, but I'm going to answer them based on the current track and the current forecast. We're now to that point, and I can answer that. All right? We're going to start giving specific predictions for certain areas. If the track changes, the forecast changes. But that is where I think we're to the point now. We're close enough, and we have a good enough idea of how the wind field is going to set up. Look at that wind field. That wind field looked like it went a little bit more north. Hold on. Yeah, kind of. Maybe. I don't know. Not a huge change. But either way, that orange color is 58 to 73. All right? That's 58 to 73 miles an hour. Gusts, not sustained, gusts at 4 a.m. on Thursday morning. So there it is. It comes in. Tropical storm force winds show up Wednesday morning. Stronger tropical storm force winds show up late Wednesday afternoon. Hurricane force winds start arriving early evening. Now you notice, I don't know if this is a factor of time or not, but you notice how that hurricane wind really starts to die out quickly. I'm curious in the 11 o'clock advisory if that's going to continue. It might be a factor of time. If it isn't, it might just show how quickly this is going to die out once it makes landfall. And the heaviest wind right there is in southwestern. I mean, there's going to be an area 5 to 7 miles wide that are going to get the most of this wind. And then everybody else is going to be like 75 to 90. All right. Power outages. Power outages. Expect widespread power outages. No other way to put it. Okay? Will you guys stop talking politics? I see some people on here talking politics. Look, this is a weather... Look, all right, stuff ticks me off. Look, this is a weather chat to try to give you information on what you need to know to keep you and your family safe. Get the politics off of here. Not interested. Take it elsewhere. You want to go to chat and talk about it? Go to it. I see one more thing about, if I see anything about, okay, here you go, right now. I'm banning somebody right now because I see politics. All right, here we go. I'm telling you, I'm not going to put up with it. I'm here to try to help you guys stay safe, not to bash whoever politics wants to talk about. And you know what? The controlled weather ones are going to go too, because it's a bunch of nonsense. All right? So look, I just looked at the comments. Maybe they've been going on for 30 minutes and I missed them. But, all right, here's another one. Here's another one with comments. All right, hold on, guys. I'm going to ban this person. Ban from all live streams. Goodbye. I feel like in the weakest link. Goodbye. Okay. So look, again, we're sitting here trying to save lives. Get your politics elsewhere. God, ticks me off. All right. Anyway. Yeah, now I'm just looking. Now I'm just looking. So, I'm just waiting for one to show up so I can ban them. And by the way, it will ban you for life on this. All right? So let's say, go ahead and do another one. Go ahead. Okay, anyway. All right. I'm just waiting. Like I am, I'm waiting. Up! Wait a minute. Nope, that wasn't it. All right, anyway, good. Okay. I can't ban if you tag them. I have to see the actual post. Let's get back to it. All right, so power outages. All right, we're going to have, obviously, massive power outages. They're going to last for days in many spots. They absolutely are. Starting to isolate it to scattered stuff in the afternoon, morning to the early afternoon. Okay? And then by the overnight hours, and unfortunately that's going to be a problem. It is. A lot of these power outages are going to happen at night. And that's just the worst, but that's what's going to happen. The timing of the worst of these winds are going to be overnight. So that is the overnight hours. And then by Thursday morning, expect widespread power outages. So that is really where we are. And then improvements start later on Thursday. All right? I'm still looking at the comments while I'm talking here. I'm just waiting. I got the desire to do this now. It's really fun to ban people for life. Not just for the stream, for life. So go ahead and try it. Just go ahead. Talk about politics. We're trying to talk up. Wait a minute. That was borderline. All right. Anyway, there's your power outages. All right. So there are the impacts, okay? Storm surge actually has been updated as high as 15 feet right at landfall and just to the south of landfall. Rainfall, 4 to 12 inches of rain. And those gusting winds, and I know this is maybe a little surprising for folks, but I really think most areas in our viewing area will see wind gusts 80 to 90. I do not believe that we are going to see widespread winds over 100 miles an hour. I really, really don't. I think there will be a small area that's going to get. I remember back with Irma, there was an extreme wind warning for Polk County, and that area had 100-mile-an-hour winds. So areas inland had every bit the rain as, oh, here we go. Is this the person that, is this the person? Hold on. Everybody keeps saying they want this one person gone. Yeah, this is the one. Stand by. Hold on. All right, Linda's gone. Okay. All right, now we can get back to doing what we're supposed to do, which is trying to save lives and inform the people, right? Okay. Somebody's like, make me an admin, and I'll go ahead and do it. All right, so anyway, again, 2 different features. 3, rainfall, 5 to 12 inches of rain. We've already had a ton of rain. That's going to loosen roots for some big trees. The winds are going to bring some trees down. That is a major concern, okay? Winds, 65 to 85, sustained. Gusts a little higher. A small area at landfall, wherever landfall is, and again, we're still not sure on where it is. At landfall, there will be an area 5 to 7 miles that are going to have winds up to about 120 miles an hour. Most of the area will not see that. The overwhelming majority of the area will not see that. Okay? So, surge. Where landfall, here, let me show you another map. I was going to call this map up. Stand by. Let's call this up, and I can show you the overall. Here you go. So here's the peak surge numbers. Okay. Well, tag that person, whoever who's talking politics, and when I see a tag, then I'll go ahead and take them out. I'm not talking politics. Jeez. You got people who might lose their lives with this storm. You got families who are scared to death. You got all this damage. This is going to be the worst disaster that the Bay Area has seen, more than likely, unless the track changes, in 100 years. And you guys want to rant about politics. Give me a break. Okay, good. I got him. I got this person. All right, ready? And you are blocked. Blocked. Okay, they are blocked. All right. Done, Redgrave Vanessa. Okay. So anyway, look at the storm surge. Again, this is a perfect example, all right? So unfortunately, from the Anclote River down to Englewood, that's where the highest surge will be, because that is where the expectation of landfall is going to occur. It may not be correct. It may be farther north or farther south. It is a possibility. Why did that do that? Oh, weird. But the purple area is a 10 to 15 foot surge. Okay? Again, if you guys are seeing something, I want to tag somebody, go ahead. It's cool. The red area is 5 to 10 or 6 to 10, and then the orange is 4 to 7. But guys, I mean, let's just be real about this here. I mean, I know some people are screwing around and this and that. There are probably people who don't even live in the area. Because if you live in the Bay Area, we are a very tight-knit community. We have our problems like everybody else does, but we are a very tight-knit community. And right now, we are looking at what more than likely will be the worst natural disaster that we have had in our area in 100 years. And you know me, I have been accused of candy coating and understating things in the past. I wasn't. I was giving a forecast that turned out to be accurate. Every single time, when I have made it sound like, well, maybe not this, and you kind of read between the lines, and we have missed the worst of it. Every single time. You're not hearing me say that this time, because I, in my heart of hearts, thinks that we are going to get this storm. It is not going to be like it is now of 180 mile an hour winds. Even Helene, you heard us talking over and over again about how surge was going to be the biggest issue. But this is a storm that people are afraid of. This is a storm that I've seen people in the newsroom crying over because they're so stressed. Because every one of our reporters and producers and anchors, they live here just like you do. We're all part of this community. And when you have something so devastating that we're probably going to see, it breaks you down. So here is my suggestion. People ask about rule number 7, don't freak out unless I'm freaking out. Am I freaking out now? And I answered that the best that I could earlier today. Now is not the time to freak out. We've got work to do, guys. You have 24 hours to make a decision that your life could depend on. You have 24 hours to help your neighbors who need help. You have 24 hours to get your hurricane kits and your preps ready so when a storm comes, you'll be okay. You have 24 hours to get all these things done, to comfort your spouse, your children, whatever the case may be, because the stress level is high. So right now, my encouragement to you is, this is not the time to freak out. You look back afterwards, you're like, oh my God, you break down or whatever because the emotions get the best of you. But now's the time to be strong. Now's the time to say, I'm not going to let this get the best of me. I'm going to do what I have to do to stay safe. I'm going to do what I have to do to help my neighbor, to help my friends, to help a stranger who's stuck. This is when we are at our best. I firmly believe that. So, over the next 24 hours, you don't have any weather issues. Honestly, on Wednesday morning, early, you are probably okay with weather issues. All right? But based on this track, this is what I expect. All right? Based on this track, all areas will see winds from I-75 west outside of that 5 to 7 mile band of about 65 to 85 mile an hour gusts. Pasco, Hernando, Hillsborough, Pinellas 90 to 100, a little higher. You're closer to the center. Hillsborough 90 to 100, you're closer to the center. Based on the current track, if that track goes down 15 miles, those winds will go down 15 miles. The majority of the area will see winds gusting 65 to 85 miles an hour. Inland, about the same. It's moving fast. It's still going to be strong enough to bring you hurricane force gusts. The areas that are going to see the 100 to 120 gusts are going to be a very small area, and they are impossible right now to predict where they're going to be. I can guesstimate northwestern Manatee County, southern Pinellas County, western Hillsborough County, south of South Tampa. Based on the current track, those are the areas that are probably going to see the highest gusts. The highest surge from wherever landfall is and about 30 miles south. Still 10 to 15 miles north is going to be surge, but not nearly as high because the winds will be blowing out. Now, eventually, they're still going to be coming in, but by then, hopefully, the storm will be weaker and far enough away. But as was the case with Helene, most of the damage, let me be very clear about this part. As with the case with Helene, most of the damage will be from the water. There will be wind damage. There will be trees, and I'm talking the significant catastrophic damage. There will be some trees down on houses. That's catastrophic. There will be roofs taken off, maybe. Definitely damaged from, I think of roofs taken off, I think of that Holiday Inn where Don Gramez was live in Punta Gorda when it came in and the entire roof came off. That was a 4 at the time. This might be 2, probably a 3, but it could be. So there might be some spots where roofs come off. That is catastrophic. But overall, the amount of coverage of this water, after Helene no less, is going to be unimaginable. From not having anything like this in 100 years to having it happen twice in 2 weeks. For the longest time, we've said, look, we're due. We're overdue. We know it's going to happen. We've been on this show for years, and pretty much every day we say, look, it's going to happen at some point. We know it is. And it's usually October because you get a storm in the Gulf, and it's going to move toward Florida. It always will move toward Florida because you have a front coming down every 6 or 7 days, and that front is going to push it to Florida. It's just the way it works. So, wind inland 65 to 85, gusts higher. There will always be some embedded cells that are going to be stronger, and that's the 100 to 120. But overall, the wind field of 65 to 85 with gusts a little higher, I think is going to be a pretty solid average. It will be higher than Helene, a lot higher than Helene. Helene, we never had sustained hurricane force winds. This one we will, especially within 10 miles of the path. I'll say this again. I expect these hurricane force winds to extend about 40, 45 miles out from the center. Right now, it's only 25. See if the new update came out. Well, yeah, it did. The new update is still 180. And look at that pressure, 897. That's near all-time record. Wilma was 892 or 888, one of those two. So pretty darn close. All right, so that's it, guys. This is going to be more than likely hold on. Okay, just a second. Yeah, guys, people are going to die from this storm. All right? This is not the time to be screwing around. So I just banned somebody else. So we'll see. God, why are some people so dumb? I don't get it. Anyway, whatever. You know, you want to talk politics? Great, do it somewhere else. I just don't do it. I'm trying to save lives. Okay. All right. So I guess that's about it, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Going to go for an hour tomorrow. The whole team will be in. We're going to update 24/7 as we always do. Can't imagine the storm's going to get much, if any, stronger. It's physically, almost atmospherically impossible for it to get much stronger than it actually is. And at that point, you know, we would expect as the shear starts to come in from the north and the northwest, late tomorrow into Wednesday, you will start to see the wind start to subside somewhat and weakening. Here's the only thing. You have something called an eye wall replacement cycle, ERC. The eye wall starts to crumple, and a new one develops around it, okay? The storm weakens briefly when that happens, but it also expands the wind field. So the wind field is in a larger area. Then with this shear coming in, it will also expand the wind field. So instead of a true tropical system where most of the wind is right around the center, and I'm going to go past 8 o'clock, guys. I don't know if the streamers stay or not. We will find out. But looking at these comments. Oh, you guys are making me laugh. I don't know. Okay. All right, I got you. You know, you're looking at these comments, and I mean, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes they make me laugh, but this is not the appropriate time. All right, so I'm just banning people left and right here. Okay. Is that it? Yeah, I guess that's it. I think that's it. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, you get these eye wall replacement cycles, and they expand the wind field. So this will transition to a non-tropical system, meaning the winds will not be so centrally clustered near the center of the eye. It will be expanding much, much farther. All right? So there you go. That's kind of where we are. I think we've covered everything. You know me, I'll be lengthy in my discussions through the nighttime hours and into the overnight. I don't sleep when there's a hurricane because I know a lot of you can't sleep as it is. So I try to provide some positivity, but there's very little chance that this is going to miss the Bay Area. We've had it happen before with Charlie and Irma and Ian. It does happen. And I ask the Indian Burial Ground to work its magic, and maybe it'll happen again, but you have to be prepared for a worst case scenario. Again, I've been accused many times of downplaying storms. And I repeat, every time I did, the storm turned out exactly like we said. But I'm not downplaying this one because I think this threat is really real. And I think if you're in a mandatory evacuation zone, you got to evacuate to stay safe. And if it means just going to a shelter for a couple days, all right. And then seeing, hopefully, you don't have enough damage at your home or your apartment or wherever you live that you can't go back in. But it's just not worth taking the chance. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about all the stuff I could lose. You know, I'm ready to put up my Christmas decorations in a month, and I'm thinking they might all get blown away. You know, and whatever happens, happens. And, you know, I'm going to pack away my scrapbooks, my kids' scrapbooks and stuff like that, those important papers. Those are all going in my car tomorrow when I come into work because I don't want to take a chance of a tree falling and causing roof damage or a window blowing out and everything getting destroyed. Because you can have trees go down with 80-mile-an-hour winds, and you will have trees go down with 80-mile-an-hour winds with this storm. Okay? So, guys, that's where we are. We do not have an exact track. There's your margin of error, your cone of uncertainty. It could be anywhere within there. The Hurricane Center has planted their flag on the mountain, though, that they believe that this track is pretty accurate. And they're the best around. But as I mentioned earlier, and I will show you again, there are models that show other things out there. And the Hurricane Center is saying why they think they're inaccurate, because the center is too far south, so the track is far south. But we have definitely seen in the past changes, but boy, you know, you are now beginning to get a lot of consistency, aren't you? I mean, look at that. You are getting consistency. You are no longer seeing these or these. You know, you are getting Bay Area southward is the way it's looking right now. All right? So there you go, guys. Have a great night. I will be updating, as always, giving you updates 24/7. And we'll be back again tomorrow night. We'll talk more. And hopefully I can offer some help. I have posted earlier today. I'm telling you, look on my Facebook page. There, I have a list of about 35 things for people who are staying this at home or, you know, riding this out. It's a great list. And it's a lot of things you might not have thought of. But if you are riding this out and not going anywhere, it would be worth your while to look at this list and try to do everything you can. Because there's a real chance you'll be without power for days. Maybe without water too. Especially if you're in that zone where that center, the eye, gets very, very close. All right? All right, guys. Have a great night. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you tomorrow night on our next edition of Dennis Phillips Live. Be safe. Be strong. We'll see you guys tomorrow.